僕が一番最初に開発を始めた頃というのはだいたい1996年、7年ぐらいだったかな。
Yo, buffs? I haven't gotten those in so long. I wonder if they have some of that earlier 6k cancel window here. I really need some more damage for all the work I'm doing. I mean, imagine having some buttons that are not godlike. Hello everyone, Fraud Review here, and today we'll be doing a deep dive into the recent balance patch trailer we got to see for the upcoming Season 4 patch. Before we head into the comparisons, I want to remind you that this was a somewhat cinematic trailer. It's highly unlikely that the changes we see here showcase an actual trend in character balance, like certain characters being directly buffed without compensation nerfs. The trailer is supposed to be interesting to watch, which straight nerfs usually aren't, so there's not really a reason to showcase any of them. The frames on a lot of moves also don't really check out, and some scenes seem sped up or slowed down. This was probably done to sync the footage up with the music and or make certain scenes look more interesting, which is why it's almost impossible to make proper assumptions about speed buffs and nerfs. I saw a lot of claims of moves like Sol 5k being slowed down to a 5-frame startup, which would be amazing by the way, but in most of these cases the frames in the entire clip don't really line up with how stuff unfolds in the real game, which is why I won't be doing frame by frame comparisons unless there is some really good reference point I can use. Additionally, this is a trailer of an unreleased patch, so everything we saw might be subject to change, and there's almost definitely a whole bunch of changes we weren't shown, so take all of this info with a grain of salt. Regardless of that, it's always exciting to see footage of new changes and speculate how they will come into play, especially if those changes include stuff you always wanted to see, like Zado maybe getting his legs back. Talking about changes you want to see, feel free to let me know what you are hoping for in this patch in the comments below. Anyways, let's check out what we can find. Shock State DP launches less far, allowing for pickups regardless of proximity to the corner. Since the damage seems to be unchanged, this means that Kai will have access to more damage mid-screen, which is always nice to have. In the trailer we can see Sol confirming 6S into Vortex and Fafnir. This suggests that you can cancel into them like any other special now, but it's impossible to confirm. It could also just be a weird property on 6S, but we'll see. Fafnir also wall bounces now, allowing for pickups that were previously impossible. Another thing to note is that Sol does noticeably less damage in this comparison conversion. He can also combo into Heavy Mob Cemetery now. Unlike previously, Heavy Mob Cemetery costs 100 meter to use now instead of 50, this is similar to Slayer's Last Horizon. 5H counter hit ground bounces into a very high launch now. Unfortunately, the trailer was cut in a weird way, so we don't see if this is an anti-air only property or if it works on the ground as well. But I suspect that this will also be the case for regular grounded counter hits. Additionally, the trajectory of Split seems to be a bit different. I also heard that the close slash proximity might be bigger, but this is hard to confirm due to the different camera angles. For Chip we got to see his new move Tightrope in action, and it seems like it's an incredible addition to the game. Chip can jump off of Tightrope, which might enable some devious mix. We don't really know how actionable this jump off of Tightrope is, but we do know that you can jump both to the left and right, as well as use aerials on the way down. Additionally, we know now that Chip can jump on the rope while setting it up or enter it via a diagonal alpha blade. If I had to guess, both of these work by just holding down the input for Tightrope or 236k. Overall, this looks like an amazing addition to the game. Strife always needed some more Kusoge energy like Blast Blue. Let's just hope that it's nowhere near as good as Izanami's float. We unfortunately didn't really get to see much from Axel, but they showcased a really quick cancel into Rensen from 6k twice. As you might know, Renson is a charge input and the 6k input goes forward, so it would disrupt that charge, making a cancel like this impossible. This means that we will probably get a shortcut into Renson off of certain situations like moves hitting or maybe even whiffing, similar to ArcSys charge cancels. Alternatively, they changed Renson to no longer be a charge move or made the charge window much shorter. While this is something ArcSys usually doesn't do, they did change Axel's inputs before, like making Axel Bomber a 236 input instead of a 623 input, so who knows. Similarly to what they did to Faust with his most recent changes, he now has a new way of using an old move. The golf club follow-up from thrust is now usable outside of thrust. This allows Faust to knock back items that he can't hit with 5D like Afro. It's hard to tell how good this will actually be, but it's always nice to have more ways of interacting with items. Maybe this marks the end of Mini Faust's paid actor career. Leo's 214S has noticeably more pushback, you can call it a legally mandated reset. I heard that the cancel into flash kick looked really early in the trailer, but it didn't really seem any off to me. The same conversion is also possible in the current patch, so this might just be another case of trailer shenanigans. Once again, there's risk in the clip from before the start of the string, so it's impossible to really gauge the damage here. Alfred's bomb super now triggers a wall break during its setup. This allows for super wall break Oki with the bomb status. This is a huge step up from the useless super this used to be, and I'm excited to see how much you can do with this. Asuka can now switch test cases during the bookmark super. This has always been one of those huge what ifs me and a lot of Asuka players have been dreaming about. This change comes with an increased mana drain rate during the super. It looks like the drain rate increases every time you switch test cases, but it could also just naturally ramp up over time or with the amount of cards you have swapped. In addition to that, some of the mana costs for some spells seemed a bit off, so I put them into my art program and lined them up for comparisons. The footage from the trailer is unfortunately very grainy due to YouTube's poor bitrate, so it's hard to draw any proper conclusions. Especially if it's minor differences, so all of these observations should be looked at like they are the insane ramblings of a carbon monoxide poisoning victim. In my comparisons, Terra Metron looked to be 10% more expensive, Accipiter Metron looks to be the same, possibly slightly less, and Bitshift is undeniably changed and it looks to be a 30 to 36% increase in mana cost. There's also another thing that I will mention later since it causes an interaction with another character of the cast. It looks like Zardo's command grab fully refills his eddy gauge again. Again, we didn't really see it land at 0%, but I'd be surprised if they chose to make it recover 90% or something silly like that. Other than that, there's unfortunately nothing new here. I saw a few people point out that the frog looks like it forces Melia into high block here, but honestly this might just be the case of the person that recorded this not being aware that frog is a mid. I'm sure a lot of you didn't know about that one either, right? Happy Chaos J2K ground bounces now. I honestly don't really see how that's supposed to make much of a difference since Happy Chaos literally has a gun. But hey, it looks really cool at least. Testament can now trigger the same state pop via throw. This is really nice to have and I really hope that Testament gets a little more love in this patch. Baiken's tether pulls in much more aggressively on block now. This allows her to secure 5p into pressure much more consistently. She also has this new visual on her long range parry and can dash cancel out of parry to get more value out of the guard crush it forces on the opponent at further ranges. Ramlethal made a deal with the devil and can now throw her swords diagonally downwards. This puts the opponent into a guard crush state because of course it does. In all seriousness though, this is a pretty cool change because it's technically like a new move, so it's always nice to see something like that. Enhanced 214K leads into a hard knockdown now. The 623S launch distance also seems to be slightly shorter, which is nice for consistency. Wait, can you hear that? Oh no. What you just saw wasn't modded at all. Gold Lewis can cancel Behemoth Typhoons into more Behemoth Typhoons with his security gauge now. One cancel costs 50% of this gauge. It's honestly pretty cool to see characters with meter management get more ways to use that meter, so I'm kind of happy about this, even though it looks pretty scary. This is where I tell you about the other new Aska thing I mentioned earlier. Potemkin can now flick cubes, which probably means that Aska's cubes now count as actual projectiles. Before that, they were in this weird limbo of definitely being a projectile, but not really sharing any of the negative properties of projectiles. Additionally, Potemkin Buster has armor now. Yes, this also isn't an April Fool's joke. I have no idea what they were cooking with this patch, but honestly, I'm pretty excited to see how this one pans out. Mistfinder can now clash into projectiles and delete them. Not really that spicy, but hey, it's kinda cool. Jacko can dash cancel her kick now. We only saw this work off of a minion, so it might not be possible on regular hits or blocked kicks. Another weird thing is that the classic dash cancel sparks are greenish instead of yellow, so this might be a brand new kind of cancel for minion interactions. His kind of lackluster 6k cancels into bite much earlier now. This is probably a universal cancel window for other specials as well. But I know what everyone is here for. Since the only conversion we got to see was incredibly short, we couldn't really accurately compare the damage, especially since Slayer's main damage comes from pile bunker loops. The short conversion we did get to see did deal the same exact amount of damage it would deal in the current patch though. It's relatively safe to assume that we'll see some sort of damage adjustments for Slayer when the patch rolls out though. For Batman, it seems like the 236H error goes further and 5k might launch a bit higher, but I'm sure there's a lot more we'll get to see when the patch notes roll out. The Abbott change is not crazy by any means, but it's still a very welcome change. Danzai launches on grounded counter hits now, allowing it to destroy the maniacs that try to throw install Abba on wake up more effectively now. Yeah, you saw that right, Blood Rage Pop actually launches high enough to lead into a combo now. Since Nago has insane meter gain off of DP loops, this means that most of these wall stick pop conversions will likely lead into the Blood Rage super. This gets very scary if you consider that this super is one of the hardest hitting supers in the entire game at 200 damage raw. Talking about Blood Rage super, it seems to drain a good amount of HP now instead of immediately halting the Blood Rage HP drain effect. I assume the super will just drain the amount of health you are going to lose with the remaining duration of Blood Rage. Anji got the ability to cancel Fujin into another Fujin. This gives him a lot more options out of Fujin, which is always nice to have. Ino can now cancel nodes into a second node. Wait, that's just what Anji got, but different. I wonder if this special reset thing is a trend we'll see more of when the patch releases. Her chemical love also seems to be able to maintain your momentum or drift manually now, which is very exciting. This also means that she can cancel its recovery to a certain degree via landing like with normals. Melia gets to cancel her air backdash a bit earlier. Moving on. It looks like Bridget has a new trajectory for roll. In the trailer, Jacko attempts to 6p this on reaction, so I assume that this is an additional type of roll. Also yes, it still looks like Bridget doesn't deal any damage. Sin seems to be able to use his Gazelle Step Dash outside of specials. We can't really tell if this will be a thing he can just do whenever or only during certain states like after block stun or as a Kara option. Additionally, since stamina meter doesn't seem to recover in this clip, there's still a chance for Still Growing to become an actual move instead of a glorified taunt. That seems to be everything I was able to find in this trailer. I'd love to know how you feel about these changes and how excited you are about this patch, so feel free to let me know in the comments below. Don't forget that this was just a teaser for the patch, there's almost definitely a whole lot of changes we still don't know about. And of course everything in this trailer is subject to change, like that scary armored Potemkin Buster. Anyways, I'm going back to anxiously waiting for the patch and the Monster Hunter Wilds beta now. Also yes, the beta will probably pile bunker my upload schedule for a tiny bit, but don't worry, I'm really excited for Season 4 and there will be plenty of content for me to work on. And as always, thank you for watching.